The massive white hull of the UNHS Nightingale gleamed against the darkness of space as it approached the Vega system. Its sleek design stood in stark contrast to the military vessels that occasionally patrolled these borders. The hospital ships, every curve and contour engineered not for combat but for healing. The Red Cross emblem, a symbol dating back centuries on Earth, was prominently displayed on all sides of the vessel, unmistakable even from a considerable distance. Captain Hana, Park stood on the observation deck, her experienced eyes scanning the distant planets of the Vega system. The soft blue glow of tactical displays reflected off her face as she studied the conflict zones they would soon be navigating. At 43, Park carried herself with the confidence of someone who had seen both the worst and best of what the universe had to offer. "Status report," she requested, her voice calm but commanding. Her first officer, Lee Sun-ho, approached with a data tablet. "We're on schedule, Captain. ETA to Vega 4 orbit is 18 hours. Medical bays 1 through 12 are prepped and ready to receive casualties immediately upon arrival." Park nodded, taking the tablet and scrolling through the details. The Nightingale wasn't just any hospital ship. It was Earth's flagship medical vessel, equipped with technology that would have seemed miraculous just decades earlier. Regenerative chambers, cellular reconstruction units, neural pathway restorers, all designed to heal injuries that would have been fatal in previous generations. "And the security situation?" she asked, her thoughts momentarily drifting to the memory of her sister, June, who had died in the Proxima conflict when a supposedly secure medical facility had been overrun. "Still complicated," Sun-ho admitted. "The Vegan Republic forces control the northern hemisphere. The separatists hold most of the south. Fighting has intensified near the equatorial regions." Park turned away from the viewport facing the 12 senior medical staff who had gathered for the briefing. They represented the finest doctors Earth had to offer, dedicated professionals who had volunteered for this dangerous mission. "I want to be clear about what we're heading into," Park addressed. "Them. This isn't like the relief efforts on Mars or the epidemic response on Europa. Vega I-4 is an active war zone. Both sides have agreed to respect our neutrality, but tensions are high." Dr. Yoon Ji-woo, the chief medical officer, stepped forward. Her practical experience in conflict zones made her voice carry additional weight. "My team has treated wounded from both factions for the past 3 supply missions. They know we don't take sides. The Vegans may be fighting each other, but they've honored medical neutrality so far." Park appreciated Ji-woo's confidence, but couldn't shake her unease. "Intelligence reports suggest the possibility of third-party involvement in the conflict. Unknown ships have been detected at the system's edge." The room grew quiet. Everyone understood what was left unsaid. Not all species in the galaxy shared Earth's views on the sanctity of medical personnel. "We have our mission," Park continued, her resolve strengthening. "Over 10,000 civilians are trapped in the capital city with inadequate medical facilities. Children, elders, the vulnerable, they need us." She brought up a holographic map of their landing zone, a once beautiful coastal city now scarred by war. "We'll establish primary triage here, with secondary medical stations in these 4 locations. Security protocols remain at level 3, defensive shields active, but no offensive capabilities online. We are healers, not warriors." The ship's intercom chimed softly, and the navigator's voice came through. "Captain, we've received new transmissions from the surface. Casualty estimates have been revised upward by 30%. A few faces in the room fell at this news. Park understood their reaction. More casualties meant longer hours, harder decisions, greater emotional toll. "I know what you're all thinking," she said, her voice softening slightly. "And yes, this mission just got harder. But remember why we're here. Remember what this ship represents." She gestured around them, at the Nightingale's state-of-the-art facilities. "Hundreds of years ago, our ancestors battled disease and injury with primitive tools and limited understanding. Today, we carry the accumulated medical knowledge of human history among the stars. We've taken an oath, not just as doctors and medical professionals, but as representatives of Earth, to extend the hand of healing to all who need it. Dr. Kang. Minsu, an experienced trauma surgeon, nodded firmly. The Nightingale has never turned away anyone needing help. We won't start now. Park felt a surge of pride in her crew. We launch shuttles as soon as we achieve stable orbit. Priority 1 is pediatric casualties, followed by critical care patients who can't be treated with local resources. As the meeting dispersed, Park returned to the viewport. The distant star at the center of the Vega system cast a golden light across her face. She thought of the correspondence she'd received from both faction leaders, formally guaranteeing the ship's safety. Such promises should have reassured her. Yet as she watched her dedicated crew prepare for their mercy mission, a feeling of unease settled in her stomach. The Nightingale had run 67 successful medical missions into conflict zones. Park had personally commanded 42 of them. She had learned to trust her instincts. Captain? Sunho had returned, noticing her expression. Is everything all right? Park turned from the viewport, pushing aside her concerns. Yes. Begin final approach preparations. Those people have waited long enough for help. The Nightingale continued its journey, a beacon of humanity's compassion against the backdrop of distant stars, carrying hope toward a world torn by war. The medical bay of the Nightingale buzzed with focused activity as doctors and nurses worked tirelessly. The ship had been in orbit around Vega 4 for just under 72 hours, and already they had taken aboard over 800 critically wounded civilians. The soft hum of medical equipment filled the air, punctuated by the occasional urgent command from a surgeon or the beeping of vital sign monitors. Dr. Jin Kim wiped sweat from his brow as he finished stabilizing a young Vegan child who had lost both legs to an explosive device. The boy's skin had a faint purplish tint, normal for his species, but the pallor beneath told Jin the child had been minutes from death when the shuttle brought him aboard. He'll keep both his lives now, Jin said to the nurse assisting him. Get him to Recovery Ward 3. I need to check on those radiation victims from the southern settlement. Jin had been working for 26 straight hours, refusing to rest while casualties continued to arrive. As he stepped into the corridor, the ship's communication system chimed. All medical personnel, this is Captain Park. Shuttle 7 is inbound with 43 critical patients from the Capitol bombing. Prepare trauma bays 1 through 5. The calm in the captain's voice belied the horror they had witnessed below. The bombing had targeted a school being used as a civilian shelter, a clear violation of the Galactic Accords. Jin had been on too many humanitarian missions to be shocked anymore, but the scale of suffering on Vega 4 was testing even his professional detachment. He was halfway to the radiation ward when he felt it, a violent shudder that ran through the entire ship. His body reacted before his mind could process what was happening, his hand instinctively reaching for the wall to steady himself. Then came the second impact, much stronger. The lights flickered and the artificial gravity faltered momentarily. Jin was thrown against the opposite wall as klaxons began to wail throughout the ship. All hands, impact in medical section Delta, this is not a drill. The captain's voice now carried an edge of urgency Jin had never heard before. We are under attack. All personnel, emergency protocols. Jin's mind reeled at the words. Under attack? The Nightingale was a hospital ship, clearly marked, broadcasting international medical credentials on all frequencies. They carried no weapons. The third impact came as Jin was running toward the communications hub. This one was catastrophic. He felt the deck buckle beneath him as the lights went out completely. Emergency lighting flickered on, bathing the corridor in an eerie red glow. Through the nearest viewport, Jin caught sight of them, 3 sleek vessels, unmarked and predatory, circling the Nightingale like sharks around wounded prey. As he watched, in horror, one of them fired again, a streak of blinding blue-white energy that struck the ship's main medical bay, the section where he had been operating just minutes before. Jin forced himself to move. The emergency response training took over as he made his way through increasingly damaged sections of the ship. Crew members rushed past him, some wounded, all with the same look of stunned disbelief on their faces. When he reached the communications hub, he found it in chaos. 2 technicians lay dead at their stations, and a third was desperately trying, To reroute systems. The main array is gone, the technician shouted over the shriek of rupturing air seals somewhere nearby. They hit it in the first volley. We've got nothing. Jin pushed his way to the auxiliary communications panel. Move over, he ordered, his fingers flying across the emergency controls. The backup system can still transmit basic distress signals if we bypass the safety protocols. Another impact rocked the ship, and the remaining functional screens showed the devastating truth. The attackers were systematically targeting life support systems, patient wards, and medical facilities. Not the engines, not the navigation. They weren't trying to disable the ship. They were trying to kill everyone aboard. Who are they? The technician asked, voice cracking. Why would anyone attack a hospital ship? Jin didn't answer. He was too focused on establishing the connection to Earth's nearest relay station. The ship's automatic identification beacon had been destroyed, which meant the distress signal would have to include manual authentication codes to be recognized as legitimate. Work, damn you, Jin muttered as the system struggled to connect. A warning light indicated that atmosphere was venting from multiple decks. They were running out of time. The console sparked to life just as the ship was hit again. Jin grabbed the transmitter, speaking rapidly. Emergency distress signal from UNHS Nightingale. We are under attack in Vega system by unknown hostile forces. Hospital ship with 2,400 crew and patients aboard. This is not a drill or error. Authentication code Sierra Hotel 99 Tango. Multiple casualties, catastrophic damage. Request immediate. The transmission cut off as a power surge overloaded the panel. Jin swore, trying to restart the system. But it was fried. Did it get through? The technician asked. Part of it, Jin replied. Enough, I hope. They had no time to dwell on it. The ship's internal communications crackled with Captain Park's voice, now clearly coming through an emergency handheld unit. All medical staff, patient evacuation to Central Hub. We've lost decks 4 through 7. Move everyone you can to the shielded core. Jin and the technician raced through increasingly damaged corridors. The elegant interior of the Nightingale now resembled a war zone. Exposed wiring, emergency force fields containing hull breaches, and worst of all, the wounded and dead scattered where they had fallen. In the pediatric ward, Jin found 2 nurses, trying to move critically ill children as the life support systems failed around them. He helped them disconnect the portable medical units, his doctor's hands steady despite the chaos. The central hub, he told them. Captain's orders. As they rushed the children through the ship, another blast tore through a nearby section. The transparent aluminum viewport at the end of the corridor showed the terrible truth. One of the attacking ships was directly alongside them now, close enough to see the weapon ports opening for another volley. Jin had a fleeting thought of his home back on Earth, the small apartment overlooking the Pacific. He wondered if he would ever see it again. The ship shuddered once more as they reached the central hub, a reinforced section designed as the last refuge in catastrophic situations. Hundreds of wounded patients and crew members were crowded inside, medical staff working frantically with dwindling supplies. Captain Park stood at the emergency control station, her uniform torn and bloodied from a head wound. When she saw Jin, a momentary look of relief crossed her face. "Did you get a signal out?" she asked without preamble. Jin nodded. "Partial transmission, authentication included." "It will have to be enough," she said grimly. "We've lost engines, navigation, and most of life support. The attackers are holding position now, watching us die." Jin looked around at the wounded, the frightened faces of his colleagues, and the children they had risked everything to save. The Nightingale was drifting helplessly now, bleeding air and power, surrounded by enemies who had violated every principle of galactic law. "How long can we maintain life support in this section?" he asked. The captain's expression was one he would never forget, a mixture of rage, determination, and terrible knowledge. 48 hours, she replied. Maybe less. We need to make it count. Around them, the surviving crew of the Nightingale prepared for the fight of their lives. Not a battle with weapons, but a desperate struggle to keep thousands of innocent people alive in a crippled ship. waiting for a help they weren't sure would ever come. The message arrived at Earth Central Command at 0342 hours. It was fragmented, distorted by interference, but the authentication code was valid. The duty officer's face drained of color as she processed the implications. Then she hit the emergency alert with a trembling hand. Within 30 minutes, the United Earth Coalition Security Council was convened in an emergency session, something that had not occurred since first contact with alien civilizations a decade earlier. Video feeds from around the world showed grim-faced leaders taking their seats, many still in nightclothes with hastily thrown-on formal jackets. Director Yuna Song stood before the assembled representatives, her usually composed demeanor cracking slightly as she delivered the news. At 0342 hours Earth Standard Time, we received a distress signal from the UNHS Nightingale, our hospital ship deployed to the Vega system. The transmission was incomplete but authenticated. They are under attack. She paused, letting the unthinkable sink in. I repeat, our clearly marked unarmed hospital ship is under attack. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices of shock and outrage. The Brazilian representative pounded his fist on the table, while the Nigerian delegate openly wept. They all knew the Nightingale. Many had toured it before its maiden voyage, had met its crew, had proudly watched humanity's finest medical vessel begin its mission of mercy among the stars. Do we know who's responsible? The Ukrainian representative's voice cut through the chaos. Director Song shook her head. The transmission was cut off before that information could be conveyed. We're analyzing the partial data now, but we have reason to believe it's not either of the Vegan factions. The attack signature doesn't match their technology. What is the status of the Nightingale? Asked the Indian representative, her voice tight with controlled emotion. Unknown. We've lost all communication. Based on the fragmented transmission and the emergency protocols of the ship, we estimate they have perhaps 48 hours of life support remaining in the emergency sectors, if those are intact. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Over 2,000 of humanity's doctors, nurses, and crew, plus hundreds of patients from the Vegan Civil War, could be dying at this very moment. The Secretary General rose slowly to her feet. At 72, she had seen humanity through its first tentative steps into the galactic community, always advocating for peace and cooperation. Now her face was set in lines of steel. I think I speak for all of us when I say this attack demands a response. Not just diplomatic protests or economic sanctions, this is a direct assault on everything we stand for as a species. The Nightingale represents the best of humanity, our compassion, our healing hands extended to those in need. This cannot go unanswered. For the first time in the history of the United Earth Coalition, all 194 member states voted unanimously on a military action. There was not a single abstention, not a moment of debate. The vote was completed in less than 5 minutes. The call went out immediately. Admiral Tae-Ho Lee was to report to Earth Central Command. Admiral Lee was tending to his garden when the summons arrived. At 63, he had been semi-retired, for 3 years serving as a strategic advisor but no longer commanding active fleets. His hands were deep in soil, planting new seedlings, when his aide rushed across the carefully cultivated lawn. Sir, Priority 1 message from command. They need you immediately. 6 hours later, Lee stood in the Situation Room beneath Geneva, surrounded by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The wall screens displayed a slowly rotating 3D model of the Vega system, with the Nightingale's last known position marked in red. We're going to get them back, Lee said quietly, studying the tactical display. It wasn't a question or a hope. It was a statement of fact. General Patel, head of Earth's ground forces, leaned forward. With respect, Admiral, the Nightingale is 4 days away at maximum speed, even using the jump gates. By the time any rescue force arrives... I'm aware of the timeline, Lee interrupted. But we will go anyway. If they are still alive, we will save them. If they are not, we will bring them home. And we will find who did this. The room fell silent. Everyone present knew Lee's reputation. His brilliant defense of the Mars colonies during the asteroid crisis, his diplomatic skill in the first contact negotiations. But they also knew his personal connection to the Nightingale. His youngest daughter served as a trauma surgeon aboard the ship. What assets do we have available? Lee asked, his voice betraying no emotion. The fleet commander cleared his throat. "That's why you're here, sir. It's time to activate Protocol Artemis." A murmur ran through the room. Protocol Artemis was the closely guarded secret of Earth's defense strategy, unknown to the public and to most of the galactic community. While officially pursuing peaceful expansion and scientific exploration, Earth had quietly built a significant military capacity. Over the past 15 years, hiding vessels within asteroid mining operations, research stations, and gas harvesting platforms throughout the solar system. "Show me," Lee ordered. The display changed, revealing the true extent of humanity's hidden fleet. 117 warships, from fast attack frigates to 3 dreadnought-class vessels, all strategically positioned throughout the solar system, all fully crewed and combat-ready. "The fleet has been on rotating standby since the program began," explained the fleet commander. "We can have 90% of these vessels ready to jump within 30 hours. Lee nodded slowly, his mind already calculating trajectories, formations, contingencies. "And the Spearhead Protocol?" The room grew even quieter. The Spearhead Protocol was the most classified element of Earth's defense strategy, an experimental technology that even most of the military leadership knew little about. Director Song answered. "The prototype is operational, untested in actual combat, but the simulations are promising." Lee turned to face the gathered leadership. "I want everything, every ship, every weapon, every soldier who volunteers. This isn't just about rescuing the Nightingale, though that remains our primary objective. This is about sending a message to the galaxy. You do not attack healers. You do not target the vulnerable. Not Earth's people, not ever." The authorization codes were transmitted within the hour. Throughout the solar system, hidden compartments in mining stations slid open to reveal weapons systems. Civilian research vessels powered down their scientific equipment and activated military-grade shields. Crew members who had trained for years for a day they hoped would never come, opened sealed orders and prepared for combat. On Mars, the massive Olympus shipyard, publicly known as a cargo vessel maintenance facility, revealed its true purpose as the central hub of Earth's warfleet. 3 enormous dreadnoughts, each over a kilometer long, powered up their systems for the first time. Their names reflected humanity's classical heritage: Thunder, Lightning, and Tempest. Admiral Lee established his command center aboard the Lightning, coordinating the unprecedented mobilization. Ships were arriving from Jupiter's moons, from the mining stations of Saturn's rings, from the research outposts of Neptune. He stood at the main viewport watching as vessel after vessel took formation around the flagship. Many had been disguised as bulk carriers or science vessels, their true capabilities hidden beneath civilian exteriors. Now they shed those disguises, revealing the sleek lines and formidable weapons of warships designed by the finest military minds on Earth. "Fleet assembly at 87%, Admiral," reported his executive officer. "Jumpgate sequencing has begun." Lee nodded, his eyes never leaving the gathering armada. "And the Nightingale?" "Still no communication, sir. We've redirected 3 long-range recon drones toward Vega. They'll arrive 12 hours before we do." "Very good." Lee turned to face the bridge crew. Many were young, too young to have seen actual combat. Earth had been at peace for their entire lives. "Send to all ships. We launch in 6 hours. Our mission is clear: rescue the Nightingale and her crew if possible, recover our fallen if necessary, and identify those responsible." He paused, then added, "And let everyone understand, this is not a revenge mission. We are not barbarians. We are not conquerors. We are the guardians of humanity's values, even in war, especially in war." Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden strength gathered. Within 48 hours of the distress call, 117 warships, a force that most galactic powers had not known existed, prepared to jump toward Vega. As the newly completed Jumpgate network powered up for the largest transit in its history, Admiral Lee studied the last known coordinates of the Nightingale, thinking of his daughter, of Captain Park, of all those who had gone to heal and had met with violence instead. "We're coming," he whispered to the stars. Hold on. We're coming. The jump gate flared with blinding light as the Earth fleet emerged into the Vega system. First came the scout ships, slicing through the void like silver needles, followed by the frigates and destroyers in tight formation. Then, in a display that would have been beautiful if not born of such grave purpose, the three dreadnoughts materialized: Thunder, Lightning, and Tempest, their massive hulls gleaming under the light of Vega's sun. On the bridge of the Lightning, Admiral Lee stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his weathered face illuminated by the tactical displays surrounding him. The fleet had made the journey in record time, pushing the new jump gate technology to its limits. "Status report," he ordered, his voice steady despite the tension electrifying the bridge. His second-in-command, Commander CO, stepped forward. "All ships present and accounted for, Admiral. No jump casualties or system failures. The fleet is at full combat readiness." Lee nodded, but his attention was already fixed on the long-range sensor data now streaming in. "And the Nightingale?" A pained expression crossed Seo's face. "We've located her, sir. She's drifting in high orbit around Vega 4. Life support is critical but still functioning in parts of the ship. We're detecting approximately 700 life signs." 700. Out of over 2,000, Lee allowed himself one moment of private grief before pushing the emotion aside. There would be time for mourning later. "Any hostile vessels in the area?" "None within immediate sensor range, sir. But the advanced probes picked up something interesting." CO brought up the data on the main display. "We've identified the energy signatures of the weapons used against the Nightingale. They match known Korvaxi military technology." A murmur ran through the bridge. The Korvaxi Imperium was a regional power in this sector, not part of the Galactic Council, isolated and aggressive, but not previously believed to have any quarrel with Earth. "That can't be a coincidence," said Captain June, the fleet's intelligence officer. "Our data mining unit has been analyzing communications traffic in this system. It appears the Korvaxi have been supplying weapons to both sides of the Vegan Civil War, deliberately prolonging the conflict." "For what purpose?" Lee asked, though he was already forming his own theory. "Territorial expansion, sir," June confirmed. With the Vegans weakened by internal fighting, the Korvaxi could eventually step in as peacekeepers and establish control over the system. Our hospital ship's humanitarian mission was interfering with that plan by stabilizing the situation and reducing casualties. Lee's expression hardened. "So they attacked an unarmed hospital ship to eliminate a peaceful obstacle to their conquest. Where is their fleet now?" The tactical display shifted, revealing a cluster of signals on the far side of Vega 4. 26 vessels in total, sir, CO reported. They appear to be gathering at their forward base on Vega Phi's moon. Based on their communications, they seem surprised by our arrival. "They didn't expect us to respond in force," Lee said quietly. "They've been watching our peaceful exploration missions for years. They saw our hospital ships, our science vessels, our diplomatic corps. They never imagined we had teeth." He turned to face his command staff. "I want a direct communication channel to their flagship immediately, and prepare 3 strike teams, our best. I want them ready for deployment within the hour." As the bridge crew rushed to comply, General Choi, the fleet's ground forces commander, approached Lee at the viewport. "Permission to speak freely, sir." Lee nodded. "The crew is angry, Admiral, very angry. What the Korvaxi did to the Nightingale." Choi's voice tightened. "There are calls among the ranks for a full retaliatory strike, to hit their bases, their supply lines, their homeworld." Lee was silent for a moment, watching as the fleet settled into battle formation around the 3 dreadnoughts. "I understand their anger, General. I share it, but we will not become what we're fighting against." He turned to face Choi directly. "We are here for 3 purposes: to rescue our people, to bring those directly responsible to justice, and to make it absolutely clear that attacking our humanitarian missions is unacceptable. With respect, sir, a limited response might be seen as weakness." "No," Lee said firmly. "True strength lies in restraint. Anyone can lash out in rage. It takes discipline to administer justice without vengeance." He gestured to the tactical display showing the Nightingale. Those people went to heal, not to kill. We dishonor their sacrifice if we abandon our principles in their name. The communication officer interrupted. Admiral, channel established. With the Korvaxi flagship. Lee straightened his uniform and moved to the center of the command platform. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the face of a Korvaxi commander, humanoid but with distinctly reptilian features, scales shimmering, with an iridescent quality under the harsh lighting of their bridge. This is Admiral Taeho Lee of the United Earth Defense Fleet. You have attacked an unarmed Earth hospital ship in violation of all galactic laws of conflict. You have killed over 1,000 medical personnel and patients under our protection. We demand the immediate surrender of the vessels involved in this attack and their commanding officers. The Korvaxi commander's vertical pupils narrowed. This is Commander Zax of the Korvaxi Imperium. We do not recognize your authority in this system, human. The ship you speak of was interfering in internal matters beyond your jurisdiction. Its destruction was regrettable but necessary. Lee's expression didn't change, but those who knew him well could see the cold fury in his eyes. Commander, perhaps you misunderstand the situation. I am not requesting. I am informing you of what will happen. His voice remained perfectly level. I have 117 warships under my command. You have 26. Your vessels attacked our hospital ship on your orders. Those specific ships and their commanders will surrender to us within 1 hour, or we will take them by force. The Korvaxi commander hissed, revealing rows of sharp teeth. You have hidden your true nature well, humans. Playing at peace while building weapons, we will not forget this deception. We built these ships hoping never to use them, Lee replied. But make no mistake, we will use them now. 1 hour, Commander. The choice is yours. As the screen went dark, Lee turned to his tactical officer. I want our full capabilities visible to their sensors now. No more hiding what we can do. Throughout the fleet, weapon systems powered up. Missile tubes opened. Energy shields shimmered into existence around each vessel. The 3 dreadnoughts moved into a spearhead formation, their massive main guns rotating to targeting positions. Sir, Commander Seo said quietly, what if they refuse to surrender the guilty parties? Then we will take them, Lee said simply. But listen carefully, these are our rules of engagement and they will be followed without exception. We target only military assets, specifically the 3 vessels that attacked the Nightingale and the command structure that gave the orders. Civilian targets are absolutely forbidden. Any ship that surrenders is to be taken intact. Our goal is justice, not extermination. He looked around the bridge, meeting the eyes of each officer in turn. Is that understood? Yes, Admiral, came the unanimous response. Lee nodded and returned his gaze to the viewport, watching as shuttles raced toward the drifting Nightingale to begin evacuation of the survivors. They thought us weak because we chose peace, he said, quietly. They will learn that compassion and strength are not opposing values. They are complementary ones. And they will learn that the most dangerous enemy is not the one who fights for conquest, but the one who fights to protect others. Around him, the Earth fleet prepared for battle, its weapons primed, its resolve unshakable. Within the hour, the Korvaxi would learn the cost of attacking those who came only to heal. The 1-hour deadline passed without a response from the Korvaxi. Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of the Lightning, watching the tactical display as the final seconds ticked away. He had hoped, perhaps naively, that the show of force would be enough, that further bloodshed could be avoided. They've made their choice, he said quietly. Commence Operation Shepherd. Throughout the fleet, crews moved with practiced precision. This was the moment they had trained for across years of hidden drills and simulations. The Lightnings advanced. Electronic warfare suite came online, targeting the Korvaxi communication systems with pinpoint accuracy. EW assault commencing, reported Lieutenant Cho from her station. Her fingers danced across the controls as she directed the invisible attack. First layer of their defenses breached. Second layer, we're in. Their fleet-wide communications are compromised. Lee nodded. Initiate Phase 2. The three dreadnoughts adjusted their positions slightly, bringing their main electromagnetic pulse cannons to bear on specific targets. These weapons, developed in secret Earth laboratories and never before used in actual combat, were designed to disable rather than destroy. EMP weapons charged and locked, Commander CO confirmed, targeting the three vessels identified in the Nightingale attack plus the Korvaxi flagship. Fire, Lee ordered. There was no dramatic explosion, no visible beam of energy, just a subtle ripple in space as the precisely calibrated pulses shot toward their targets. On the tactical display, the officers watched as the targeted Korvaxi ship suddenly lost power, their engines and weapon systems going dark as the electromagnetic pulse overwhelmed their shielding. Direct hits on all targets, SEO reported. Their primary systems are offline. Secondary and emergency systems are failing. In the sudden silence that followed, Lee gave the order that would define humanity's first true military action among the stars. Launch boarding parties. Minimal force. We want prisoners, not casualties. Across the fleet, specialized boarding shuttles launched from their bays, each carrying a team of Earth's most elite soldiers. These men and women had been selected not just for their combat skills, but for their discipline, their ability to show restraint even in the face of an enemy who had shown none. On the Lightning's bridge, tension mounted as the boarding teams approached their targets. The rest of the Korvaxi fleet was moving now, attempting to regroup and respond to the unexpected attack. Sir, the remaining Korvaxi vessels are powering weapons, warned the tactical officer. Lee had anticipated this. Activate firewall protocol. Throughout the Earth fleet, secondary vessels moved into predetermined positions, creating a barrier between the disabled Korvaxi ships and their would-be rescuers, shields interlocked, forming an impenetrable wall. Send to all Korvaxi vessels, Lee instructed. We have no desire for further conflict. We are taking custody of only those directly responsible for the attack on our hospital ship. Stand down, and there will be no additional action against your forces. On the main screen, they watched as the first boarding team breached the hull of the Korvaxi flagship. The ship-to-ship combat was brief but intense. The Korvaxi fought fiercely, but they were disorganized without their communications and outmatched by the Earth Force's superior training. Team 1 reports the Korvaxi commander is in custody, announced the communications officer. Minimal casualties on both sides. Similar reports came in rapid succession as the other vessels were secured. The three ships directly involved in the Nightingale attack had been captured intact, their crews detained with surprising efficiency. And the rest of their fleet? Lee asked. Holding position, sir. They appear to be confused. I don't think they expected this level of coordination or restraint. Lee allowed himself a small smile. They expected either weakness or brutality. They weren't prepared for strength tempered by principle. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity as the Earth fleet secured their position in the system. The surviving crew of the Nightingale were evacuated to medical facilities aboard the Thunder, where the best trauma teams worked tirelessly to stabilize the most critical patients. In the makeshift brig aboard the Lightning, Admiral Lee personally visited the captured Korvaxi commander. The reptilian officer sat stiffly in the holding cell, his scaled skin dull without its usual luster, a sign of stress in his species. Your attack on our hospital ship was a miscalculation of historic proportions, Lee said without preamble. Not just tactically, but morally. Commander Zax lifted his chin defiantly. We underestimated your military capacity, a strategic error, but your presence in this system was unwelcome. The Vegan conflict is our sphere of influence. No. Lee's voice was firm. Your error wasn't underestimating our weapons. It was underestimating our values. You will be transported to Earth, where you and your officers will face trial under interstellar law for crimes against humanity and violations of the medical neutrality accords. Trial? Zax seemed genuinely surprised. Not execution? We are not barbarians, Lee replied simply. Justice requires fairness even for those who showed none. 3 weeks later, the Galactic Assembly convened an emergency session. Representatives from over 200 worlds gathered in the Great Chamber on neutral Centauri Prime to hear testimony about the events in the Vega system. Captain Hannah Park was helped to the speaker's platform by Dr. Jin Kim. Her body was still healing from severe injuries sustained during the attack, but her voice was strong as she addressed the assembly. "I come before you today not seeking sympathy, but understanding," she began. "The ship I commanded, the UNHS Nightingale, carried no weapons. Its halls were filled with healing equipment, not munitions. Its crew had taken oaths to preserve life, not take it." She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the gathered representatives. 1,412 people died when the Korvaxi attacked us. Doctors, nurses, engineers, patients, including 341 children who had been injured in the Vegan Civil War. They died not in combat, but while under the protection of medical neutrality that has been honored across the galaxy for generations. Murmurs of outrage rippled through the assembly. "But I am not here to speak only of what was lost," Park continued. "I am here to speak of what was found. In our darkest hour, humanity discovered that our compassion does not make us weak. It gives us purpose. It defines the boundaries we will defend with all our strength." The chamber quieted as she continued. "Some of you have expressed concern about Earth's previously undisclosed military capabilities. You need not fear. The fleet that rescued the survivors of the Nightingale could have destroyed the entire Korvaxi presence in the Vega system. Instead, they captured only those directly responsible for the attack, using the minimum force necessary." She straightened, to her full height, wincing slightly at the pain from her still healing wounds. "Let this be understood by all. We came to Vega to heal, and we were met with violence. We responded with force but chose to end with justice. Earth will continue to send ships of healing to those in need throughout the galaxy. But now you know, our compassion is a choice, not a weakness. Our desire for peace is not born of fear, but of wisdom." In the days that followed, the Galactic Assembly formally condemned the Korvaxi actions and recognized Earth's right to establish a defensive presence in the Vega system. The Korvaxi Imperium, facing economic sanctions from the galactic community, withdrew their remaining forces. On Earth, construction began on 3 new hospital ships, each larger and better protected than the Nightingale had been. They would carry the same mission of healing, but now they would travel with escort vessels, a visible reminder that humanity's compassion was protected by strength. Admiral Lee stood in the memorial garden planted for those lost on the Nightingale. Each tree represented a fallen crew member, each flower a patient who had died under their care. He found the small cherry tree dedicated to his daughter, who had survived but would never practice surgery again due to her injuries. "Was it worth it, Father?" she asked, joining him beside her tree. Her left arm was gone, replaced by a prosthetic she was still learning to use. Lee looked out over the garden, then up to the sky where Earth's new fleet now patrolled openly. "We lost much," he said softly. "But perhaps we gained something too. Not just respect, but understanding of ourselves, of what we stand for. We proved we can be both strong and just." His daughter nodded, her hand finding his. "The new hospital ship, they've asked me to serve as a medical advisor." "And what did you tell them?" She smiled, the same determined expression he recognized from her childhood. "I told them I'd be honored. We have more healing to do out there. And now everyone knows, humanity protects its healers." Above them the stars twinkled in the gathering dusk, 1,000 points of light in the darkness. Somewhere among them, Earth's ships continued their dual mission, to heal where possible, to protect when necessary, and always to uphold the values that defined humanity at its best.